Hello to the people of Trinity Cathedral and all those watching from farther away than Cleveland. This is BJ Owens. I'm the Dean of Trinity. It's Thursday, May 7th. I hope you're doing well, staying as safe and healthy as possible. I am thinking this week, after having had a number of conversations this week and last week, even though we're going through the time of coronavirus, coronatide, as some people have called it, life goes on, and that means we're still navigating some of the things that happen in our lives that are difficult and involve loss. And of course, we go through times of transition that can be joyful, but which are diminished or at least different right now, thinking about those people who are graduating this time of year. But unfortunately, the accomplishment is by no means diminished, but the opportunity to celebrate it isn't really there anymore. A lot of those conversations that I've had in the last few days, both in my own circle of friends because of some losses we've seen, as well as people that I've spoken to, have not been about where we might be suffering in the midst of loss right now, but just normal things. Someone who lost a parent, someone who is struggling with something going on with a child who is ill, as well as people who are going through the tremendous moments of change and loss, folks who have either lost work or people who are fortunate to still have work, but their job involves making reductions that impact other people directly. Both of those are very painful places to be. When I think about where we are right now, there's this compounding sense of loss and grief. One, if we just talk about the virus itself and the pandemic and how that's causing our lives to change, of course there is fear and anxiety about our own health and safety, about the loss of loved ones, as well as how that's dramatically impacting our lives. Well, that in itself is a tremendous feeling of grief, and it's a sense of compounding loss. So if that alone was all that we were dealing with, and otherwise life was just normal, that would be a lot to deal with. But then on top of that, let's add back in what real life involves. Real life involves moments of joy, but also of loss. And one of the things that helps us to navigate those times, when we go through periods where something tragic or devastating happens to us, or even we just go through some of the bumps that come with life, time can help to heal it, but so can some of those touchstones, those rituals. A funeral brings grief and a chance to gather with family. We don't have that. I find that when I'm going through challenging times, just being in church, just seeing one another, helps me to navigate through that and hold on to the memory that joy will come again. I miss that too. And so what we're going through, it feels like the image that comes to mind is the logjam. You know how logs are supposed to flow down a river, but then they start getting backed up, and then they get backed up and backed up and backed up. Well, I feel like many of us are going through this logjam of grief and loss and anxiety, and it feels like there's no way to let it flow right now. And that is something none of us have really experienced before. And I bring it up because it helps me to name that. It helps me to see that, to get at why I might be feeling what I'm feeling on a given day. And I want you to perhaps think about that. Where do you feel life kind of backing up a little bit? And what do we do with it? Well, unfortunately, there's no quick solution to it. I think it helps to remember that even though we're not in control of our lives right now, we will get through it. And there will be a time again when the river flows in a way that feels a little bit more normal, whatever that can be. But I do think it's helpful for us, one, to name that reality, that's kind of where a lot of us are right now. I think it's also important to remember that we can hold and handle and live through times of loss and uncertainty and grief. And part of our faith and life journey means growing, and it means having understanding that part of spiritual maturity, which is something that someday I hope to have, we all hope to have and work our way towards it. It's help to me. It always helps to remember that spiritual maturity means being able to sit with loss and to hold on to uncertainty and to live in moments of uncertainty. And one, to trust that God is with us. Two, to trust that we will get through it. But three, to also not act out. When we are under stress, and this is a period of prolonged and profound stress, that we not act in a way where we pass it along, where we make other people deal with, so that we don't have to be uncertain. We make other people suffer through it in whatever way we do that. And so one thing that we can do is see where in our lives we are feeling that prolonged stress, the logjam of grief and anxiety, and realize that there are moments where we can't fix that. And then recognize places in our lives where we might be pushing against that, and maybe even letting our stress come to the surface in a way that might not be helping us, and maybe even worse, be harmful to other people. And I don't want us to feel bad or ashamed of that, but almost like, I love in centering prayer, we talk about when a word comes into your mind that is distracting you, you don't say, oh gosh, I'm terrible at meditation. You just acknowledge that it's there, and then you let it move on. I wonder if, as we're sitting watching the logs back up, and we feel ourselves, all those sort of difficult, painful feelings come to the surface, we breathe in and we breathe out, and we acknowledge that the pain is there. Maybe it has something to teach us, maybe it's just pain. And we perhaps even pray that we can carry some of the pain of the world in our prayers, in our hopes, and in our faith. And then breathe out and trust that God is still there and God is still with us, and have compassion for ourselves. Let those pieces of anxiety flow out, continue to go on out down the river, and then return to trusting that God is still with us. This is not easy work. It's not an easy time. But remember that God is here. Remember that God is with you and with me and with each and every one of us. Hold on to one another. Understand that these are tricky times. Trust that God is with you, and continue, as I do, give thanks for all the blessings that we do have. Blessings to you.